Oh, hello everyone, welcome to the channel, and today we're gonna do a comparison between two lenses, the Tamron 150-500 and the Sony 200-600. Why did you decide to go for the Sony 200-600?
I think the first main reason was the extra reach. So 600 gives you a pretty good reach for what it is. It's very flexible because it goes from 200 to 600. And I think the other reason is just because I was shooting with Tamron for a while, the 50 to 400. 400 is actually really nice, really super lightweight, but I always missing like that extra 200 that makes a lot of difference.
And you want to try the teleconverter on this one, right?
Absolutely. I think that's the next thing I want to do. It's trying the 1.4 teleconverter to see how much I can get out of these lenses.
Yeah, and this one of the difference to this lens, the Tamron, I can put a teleconverter here. So yeah, the Sony you can do that, but here no. And the reasons why I got the Tamron 150 to 500 instead of getting like a Sony, I think the main reason is because of its like very compact. So without the lens hood, it's like this size. And it's very lightweight compared to this one. This one it's heavier. I think it's like a half pound, I think, heavier than the Tamron. And I can fit this one in my small core unit in my Shimoda backpack. And Diego needs a core unit that is larger to fit this one. So he has two core units, one like smaller when we're not gonna use these lenses, and one bigger just to fit this one.
That's definitely a struggle with this. It's not as lightweight as yours. And then of course, yeah, carry on and having in the backpack, I need a special, much larger core unit to actually carry this.
And of course, the price tag of this one is $1,000, I think, less than the Sony. What I noticed about the difference of those lenses, there's a difference in sharpness that I noticed from Diego's photos, from my photos, but I don't know if this lack of sharpness worth the difference, worth like $1,000 difference. So that's what we wanted to find out today. So we're gonna take some photos and see if it's worth to pay the extra $1,000 for more sharpness and maybe better photos. So what you're gonna do today is to shoot with the two lenses, and we're gonna switch lenses actually. I'm gonna shoot with the Sony and Diego is gonna shoot with the Tamron, and we're gonna give you our impressions. And after that, we're gonna try to use the same camera body because I shoot with a Sony a7C II and Diego used the Sony a7 IV. They are pretty similar cameras, they have the same sensor, but they have some difference mainly in autofocus. So we want to give you an impression of the two lenses with the same camera body. So we're gonna try to use or the Sony a7C II or the Sony a7 IV and with the two lenses. And then we're gonna compare. So let's go shoot some birds. Okay, so what are the first impressions shooting with the Tamron?
It's pretty good. Well, first thing, of course, it's much lighter than the 200-600, so carry on around the park, carry on in the bag, it's so much easier. It feels really good in the hand actually. I didn't bother, it doesn't bother me if it's like it's the zoom, if it's inside or no.
Oh, okay, doesn't make any difference?
Yeah, didn't make any difference for me. The 600, well, this goes up to 500 and then that one goes 600, which is like that extra 100. Today specifically didn't make much difference because actually the birds that we were shooting, like the chickadees and the other ones, they're super close by. In fact, I thought that this is much better because the minimal focus it's much closer, so I could actually get closer from the birds than actually with the 600. So that I need to be a little far away. I think if you had like an all or something that it's quite far away, or trying to get like birds in flight, that one, the 600 might be better, but it's pretty good. The other thing I found is like, at least like the very first impressions, I think I need to use a couple more times. The autofocus is very snappy, so I'm very happy actually all the time using the autofocus from Sony, sketching the eyes on the bird really nicely, so didn't miss any shot basically.
Didn't feel much difference to the 200-600, the Sony one?
No, in terms of autofocus, no. Yeah, it's pretty good, and it feels really good, so lightweight to walk around the trail.
Yeah, right. From my side, shooting with the Sony, so first thing, it's huge, right? And it's heavy, so I'm not prepared to shoot with like a so heavy lens, and every time like I do this, it's like it's a workout for me, so I think I need to work out more to to lift this like more naturally. So one thing that I really like actually, it was the zoom. Like I feel that the zoom on the Tamron is a little bit like not so soft, it's a bit hard sometimes. Sometimes I want to zoom like really quick and it doesn't go. I don't know if it's because I'm using the cover, but I remember even before putting the cover on, it was a little bit like, yeah, not so soft. And I find the Sony like so smooth.
Yeah. So
much easier to do the zoom in and zoom out.
That's true. Now we're talking about the zoom. One thing I noticed actually that I forgot to mention is, one thing I didn't like is the lock system in the lens that goes up and down here, because sometimes you're ready to shoot the bird and it's locked, and then it's locked just because somehow you manage to click here without, like the other, my 5400, it has like a button, like a locker here, which is much easier, so I just lock when I need it, and it's great.
This has both. It has like a locker here, but it also has a locker, you pull, right? You pull a little bit and then it locks. It's a really good, like for if you want to lock it quickly and you don't want to find the button. But yeah, many times it was locked and I wanted to focus, and I didn't know, because the ring is kind of like not so smooth, so I didn't know if it was just like hard to move it, or if it was locked, and a lot of times it was locked. So yeah, I don't like this very much. And in terms of autofocus, I didn't feel any difference actually. I think it's pretty much like the Tamron works perfectly with the Sony. And one thing that I didn't like in the Sony, it was the thing that you said, if the subjects are really close, this one doesn't work. So for birds that were like the same distance and I'm able to shoot with the Tamron, I was not able to shoot with the Sony today because they were too close. Yeah, I think we didn't shoot like much. I think we spent like maybe 2 hours shooting, and the birds were a little bit shy today. But yeah, we got like a feeling of how it is to shoot with those lenses. But we're gonna shoot more, and we're gonna do the test of shooting with both lenses but in the same camera body. So that's gonna be our next test. Oh hey, so this is another day and we are in another park, and we're gonna continue our challenge and our comparison with the lenses. And on this park we have some bald eagles, some squirrels, and I see a lot of chickadees here. So yeah, we're gonna try to photograph these birds, and we're gonna photograph with the Sony, and Diego will photograph with the Tamron.
Okay, that's gonna be fun.
Let's go. Okay, so I'm back here at my office and I had a look at all the images we captured in these 2 days, switching the lenses and testing both of the lenses. And I zoomed in on them and I really analyzed the details, all the pixels, and I have some conclusions to share with you. In the first day that we switched the lenses and started shooting, we said that we didn't feel much difference in the autofocus from one lens to another, but we changed our minds. Maybe in the first day, we didn't photograph many birds that were perched among the twigs, but in the second day, we really found some birds that were tucked into the bushes. So that's when I felt the difference between the autofocus of the Tamron and the Sony. I felt Sony focus way more responsive and nailing focus more often than the Tamron. I'm gonna show you now some images to illustrate what I'm talking about, and just so you know, these images I'm putting here now in the section of the video, they don't have any post-processing, any editing on it, so they are raw, straight off the camera. So this bird was in a very difficult position. You see it's a bit of a soft image because there are some twigs in front of it. But the autofocus still managed to recognize the subject and focus on the eye of the bird. In these 2 days shooting with the Sony and then with the Tamron, I have a feeling that I missed many more shots with the Tamron than the Sony. And I have some photos here to show you what I'm talking about, some photos where I missed completely the focus and I was shooting with the Tamron. There were lots of twigs here and this chickadee was just going from one to another and dangling from them. And I had the Tamron and I missed a lot of shots, even when there were no twigs right in front of the bird. While Diego with the Sony had these images and I went through all the images he got from this section of the park and he didn't miss any. All of the photos are in focus. So let's talk about sharpness. This is where I found the most difference between the 2 lenses. So let's compare some photos and see the difference in sharpness. I have 2 photos of bald eagles in a similar place and both were shot with the Sony a7C II. So this first photo was shot with the Tamron. It looks pretty good, and when I shot this, I'm pretty sure focus was in the right spot. I saw the eye recognition going off, so it should be in focus, right? But when I zoomed in, we can see that the focus is a bit soft in the eye area. Now let's check the Sony. This is the original frame. So now let's zoom in and see more details. Looking at the eyes, I see that the Sony is sharper than the Tamron. And another thing I noticed is the noise in the Tamron. You see here a lot more noise in the Tamron compared to the Sony, and this is something I had already noticed when seeing my photos and then seeing Diego's photos. But noise is actually not generated by the lens itself, it's generated by the camera sensor. So what's the problem here, right? So I think the problem here is related to the lens coating. And the Tamron lens coating is not so advanced as Sony, and the purpose of the lens coating is to prevent the light of bouncing around inside the lens. A less quality lens coating will create more reflection inside the lens, and this will create a haze over the image. And the camera sees this haze and tries to compensate to create better and sharper image, but what ends up doing is amplifying the noise. So let's see another photo and compare. In this one, you can really see the sharpness difference. Sony way sharper than the Tamron. Also, you can see a lot of noise. ISO is high, but this is a very well-lit scene, so even with a high ISO, it shouldn't have this much noise because there's plenty of light hitting the camera sensor. And this is another photo of the squirrel. I captured this with the Sony a7C II and the Sony lenses, and Diego captured with the a7 IV with the Tamron lenses. It was probably captured at the same moment with the same light condition, and still Sony is a bit sharper than the Tamron. But before I give my final verdict for you, my honest opinion about those lenses, I want to edit those images, and I want to do a little bit of a test with you guys. I'm gonna edit and I'm gonna put them here, and I wanted to guess which one was taken with each lens and to see if you were able to distinguish one from another. And then I review at the end, of course, so you can see if you could guess right or not. And yeah, so let's do that. So, how many did you guys get right? Let me know here in the comments, I'm curious to know. In the editing, I use the camera raw denoise, which is the same of the Lightroom denoise, to get rid of that excessive noise that the Tamron lens creates in the image. And this is what I usually do in my editing process when I shoot with this Tamron. So I denoise, I use dehaze, a bit of clarity, a bit of sharpness, and I also give a little bit of contrast. Okay, so now that you saw the raw photos and also the edited photos, I'm gonna share my conclusions with you. Well, the Sony is a beast of a lens. It is sharper and the autofocus works better with the camera bodies. And yeah, I would go for this lens if you want something that is really sharp and you don't wanna have any problem with the autofocus. But it is heavy, like super heavy, and it is big, right? So for me, if I would go for this lens, I'll have to switch my backpack because my backpack doesn't fit this lens. So I would have to switch for another backpack that is bigger, and I really love the backpack I have today because it's like very small and it still fits like a long lens on it, and for traveling is so much better to have a smaller backpack. So yeah, this is something that still throws me off about this lens. But as I said, if you don't mind the extra weight, the extra size, and you want something that is sharper, just go for the Sony. Actually, if Sony ever comes up with a new lens like a 100-500 that is compact, at least the same size as this Tamron, I'd switch in a heartbeat because of the sharpness and also because it's a Sony lens, so it will work way better with my Sony camera. But if you want something more affordable or you want something more compact that's not so heavy, the Tamron is a very good and capable lens. Of course, if you compare side-by-side photos like we did here, you're gonna see the difference. But actually, with a little bit of editing to get rid of that noise and a little bit of sharpening, you were able to get really good photos. I actually have really good photos that I like, that I think is sharp enough. And I even printed one of these photos taken with this Tamron and is hanging on my wall. Okay, so now I want to know your opinion about those lenses. If you have one of those lenses or another lens, leave your thoughts here in the comments. And I hope you had enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching, and I see you in the next one. Bye!